Incredible promise revealed. Little girl's touching vow to lonely cowboy transforms 20 years later. Jake Caldwell stood atop the dusty hill that overlooked his family's ranch, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows over the parched earth. Years of loyalty and labor had dried up along with the pastures, and what remained was a place haunted by memories and dreams not yet realized. At 38, he felt more like a relic than a cowboy, his rugged exterior masked by a constant heaviness in his chest. Each creak of the barn door echoed loneliness, each snap of a tumbleweed a reminder of what could have been. He had battled against the elements for too long. The unforgiving drought left him wrestling between despair and determination, each passing moment a bruise on the soul. Despite his bitter resolve, shadows of past choices loomed large. There was a time when hope had danced with him, twirling in bright outfits against the backdrop of those dim barn walls. A fleeting moment, yet it felt like a lifetime ago. He remembered Emily, the spirited girl with wild curls and a contagious laugh, who had pulled him from the depths of his sorrow one fateful night. "I'll always be here for you," she'd whispered, eyes shining like stars. A promise that felt lightweight at the time, yet it now seemed like a ghost lingering in the corners of his mind. Locked in this cycle of recollection, Jake hesitated. He had spent nearly 2 decades laboring on this land alone, bartering with himself over dreams deferred and inevitable outcomes. At the mention of Emily now, a flicker of warmth swept through, momentarily brightening the shadow. But an undercurrent of fear gripped him tightly. What if she had forgotten him? What if the promise made by a child had grown distant, like the dreams of thriving cattle and flourishing crops? How could he burden her with his broken spirit? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The possibility of returning to the enclosed barn where dreams once danced both thrilled and terrified him. Could he confront the man he had become against a quaint community barn dance where laughter once echoed? As time dragged on, each tick of the clock grew louder in its reminder of his impending choices. Late harvests and empty coffers kept him restless. The shadows deepened, groaning under despair, when news arrived of the impending foreclosure. Would he stand alone, watching everything sift through his fingers like sand? The walls of his heart tightened, conflicted by his burdens. Desperation clashed with pride. He feared reaching out to Emily, worried it might bear the weight of expectation, or even, what if she failed him? With dreamlike visions fraying at the edges, he clung to a silent, haunting dread. What if beauty could not be restored, only remembered? As the darkness of night enveloped him, with it came an aching question. What if he had been alone all along? The dream of rekindling that lost spark began to dim in the shadow of uncertainty, leaving him grappling with a truth he feared more than anything: the possibility of being too late to reclaim his heart's promise. The next morning, Jake woke to a horizon painted in shades of orange and gold. The first light brought a sense of urgency, propelling him out of bed and towards the window. He could feel the pulse of the ranch beneath him, a silent call resonating with the tale of his ancestors. It reverberated in his bones, compelling him to reassess the heavy burden of the previous day. With each glance at the shrinking pastures, he sensed time slipping away, urging him to make a decision. Yet he felt fear wrapping around him like a frigid blanket. Emily's name clung to the air, tangible yet elusive. Those promising words of long ago stung his heart, but a seed of determination began to root itself within him. The visions of his life without the ranch or without her felt constricting. He needed to unearth that promise, resurrect the spirits that had lingered through years of silence. What if that spark, against all odds, could still ignite a fire? What if he could rewrite his own story? Jake moved about his routine, each parried action a silent ritual. He fed the horses, their soft whinnies mingling with thoughts of Emily's laughter. Each nibble from a handheld carrot pressured him to consider reaching out, not just for the sake of his ranch, but for his very soul. As he worked, snippets of conversations drifted through his mind, moments long forgotten, but bursting with fresh significance. The barn, with its peeling paint and weak rafters, had been a sanctuary. It stood as a witness to both pain and joy. An idea took form amidst the wood dust, a simple yet effective action. Rather than dwelling on what might have been, he would focus on what could be. He would gather his remnants of self and make that call. The promise made so long ago had been a commitment made by two innocent souls, but perhaps it could be re-examined, redefined in the wake of newfound understanding. After checking on the animals, he returned to the house, heart pounding as he prepared for the call. He dialed with shaky fingers, mind racing through possibilities. What would he say? Would she recall him? The electric ring echoed in the air, pulling him deeper into the whirlwind of anticipation. When a voice on the other end answered with a hint of confusion, surprise radiated in waves through Jake's body. He didn't recognize the sound of his own voice as he stumbled through his introduction. Yet, in that moment, when he finally heard her name, like the sweet song of a long-forgotten melody, something within him shifted. With every tentative word they exchanged, Jake felt a fog lifting, revealing shards of clarity. She seemed eager, excited even. The ghost of doubt began to dissipate as they fell into familiar rhythms, laughter tugging at the edges of their conversation. "I've always kept that promise, you know," Emily responded softly, her words cradled with warmth, igniting an ember inside him. Jake's heart raced. Now his resolve took a strong form. They agreed to meet. A realm beyond nostalgia beckoned. A new chapter awaited them. Yet beneath the surface of burgeoning hope lay an echoing question. Would the supporting foundations of their earlier selves still be strong enough to hold the weight of their lives as they would be reconnected? As the call ended, Jake stood still, grappling with blooming courage and swirling apprehension. The clock ticked, this time more loudly than before, marking the time remaining before the inevitable meeting that lay just ahead. The feeling of urgency twisted within him. Had he truly unlocked a path toward healing, or was he courting yet another tragedy waiting to unfold? As the sun dipped low once again, casting shadows that merged with his apprehensive thoughts, Jake knew the moment for truth was rapidly approaching. He had waded back into their shared history, but was it still a bond worth rekindling, or would the realities of 2 decades pull them apart again? The answer to that unspoken question lingered heavily as he moved toward the barn, the walls whispering their tales, urging him to confront not only Emily, but the man he had become in her absence. Tomorrow would unveil it all. As dawn broke the next day, Jake felt an electric current coursing through him. The morning sun's rays filtered through the barn slats, illuminating decades of dust and neglect, but also illuminating his path forward. Instead of retreating into himself like he had so often in the past, Jake decided to emerge into a new reality, one where his choices wouldn't just echo with regret, but resonate with intention. He stood atop the rickety stairs of the barn, surveying the scene before him, the horses grazing peacefully, the land sprawling out in quiet strength. A promise, both to himself and to Emily, tugged at his thoughts like the gentle pull of spring grass beneath his boots. Today wasn't about nostalgia, but rather about what they could build together, if only he found the courage to dismantle the barriers he had constructed over the years. He felt a sense of responsibility creeping in, layered beneath the excitement. Not only did he want to forge a connection with Emily, he also needed to honor the legacy of the ranch, a burden he had been carrying alone. Could he balance his personal aspirations with that duty? The ranch wasn't merely land. It was a place steeped in history, tinged with love, loss, and possibility. To let it slip through his fingers would be sacrilege, but to do so without rekindling the flames of their past felt like giving up. With a resolute breath, he ventured inside, grabbing a broom to sweep away the remnants of yesterday. Each stroke swept away dust and discontent alike, a physical manifestation of his mental state reshaping itself. Even the act of cleaning gave him clarity. As he busied himself, he began to recite the mantra that had formed in his mind. I am not the man I was. I am capable of change. His heart raced at the thought of their meeting later that afternoon. He meticulously arranged the barn, hoping to present not just a space, but a moment, an offering of himself that conveyed sincerity and purpose. However, doubt still clung to the edges of his resolve. What if Emily saw him through the lens of their youthful past, unable to reconcile the man he'd become? What if the promise of rekindling faded in the face of reality? As he worked, he could feel the weight of the promise they had made so long ago, and yet it felt different now, less like a shackle and more like a lifeline. Was he ready to confront the ghosts of their past? Hours later, as he heard the crunch of gravel signaling her arrival, his stomach twisted with a mix of excitement and trepidation. He stood at the entrance of the barn, watching as Emily stepped out of her car, poised and radiant, yet tinged with vulnerability. With each passing second, their silent history loomed larger. Their eyes met, and something electric sparked in the air between them. For a moment, he caught a glimpse of the girl he once knew, but more importantly, he glimpsed the possibilities of what lay ahead. "Hey, Jake," she said, and just like that, the years fell away. But beneath that familiar greeting loomed an uncharted territory, with all its vulnerabilities and untold stories. Would they breathe life into that promise, or would it crumble under the weight of their realities? Jake stepped forward, heart pounding and hands trembling, ready to find out if their intertwined fates could weather the storms of time and transformation. As the words formed on his lips, he realized the stakes had never been higher. The moment felt pivotal, an intersection of hope and uncertainty, where both of their futures entwined in a balance of risk and reward. Would they have the courage to nurture the fragile beginnings of their revived connection, or would fear of failure snuff out the flame before it could fully ignite? Jake inhaled deeply, ready to embrace whatever came next, the promise hanging in the air like ripe fruit waiting to be picked. As he opened his mouth to speak, the future waited, breathless and taut, on the cusp of revelation. Jake felt the pulse of nervous energy buzzing through his fingertips as he opened his mouth, but the words died on his tongue. Instead of a confident declaration of his intentions, he stumbled over his thoughts, his mind racing ahead of him. He was caught in a whirlwind of memories and aspirations, struggling to align the man he was with the man he wanted to be. "Hey, Emily," he finally managed, his voice steadying with each syllable. "It's been a while." The weight of that statement hung heavily in the air, echoing both the years of separation and the depth of their shared history. Emily stepped closer, her gaze searching his face, as if trying to uncover the hidden pages of his story. As she did, Jake could feel the years slipping away, the gap of time collapsing under the gravity of their connection. But what would come next? How could he extinguish the shadows of doubt, his inadequacies clawing at him with frenzy? "Yeah, it has," she replied, the softness of her tone masking an underlying tension. "I didn't know you'd be back at the ranch." The mention of the ranch struck a chord deep in Jake, and suddenly the dusty barn transformed in his vision. It wasn't just a building. It was a canvas on which they could paint new memories, reflecting their journeys in vivid hues of hope and redemption. But could they truly turn back the clock? Could they rebuild amidst the fractures left by years apart? Jake took a deep breath, resolving to embrace authenticity. "I came to make some changes, to do right by this place, and, well, by us," he said, the last two words lingering in the space between them like a challenge hanging in the air. He watched her reaction intently. Emily's expression shifted, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath her composed exterior. For the first time, he saw the weight she carried. She too had been shaped by their past. His heart raced. Could she want the same thing? "Us?" she echoed softly, almost as if testing the sound of it. "Do you really believe we can go back to that, after everything?" The question pierced him, laying bare the fear he had tried to bury. Could they? The past was not just a fond memory. It was also a crucible of pain and disappointment. "I don't want to go back," he clarified, his voice laced with determination. "I want to move forward. I want to honor what we had, but more than that, I want to build something new, together." Her gaze hardened slightly, a shield that seemed to rise between them. Jake sensed the hesitation creeping into her demeanor, the instinct to protect herself from potential pain. He knew that moment had to shift if they were to move forward. His heart leapt as he recognized his own fears mirrored in her. What if he stumbled through the next words, incapable of articulating this new path? Feeling a surge of boldness, Jake stepped forward, closing the space that separated them. "What if I show you? What if I show you what I envision for this ranch and for us?" He had to convince her, not just with words, but with actions that would align with his intent. Emily's eyes searched through him, debating the risk against the possibility. It was in her silence that Jake noticed a glimmer of something hopeful, something that ignited the fragile spark of possibility in both of them. The silence stretched, the world around them fading as they stood at this precipice of change. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steady yet hesitant, as if stepping into unknown territory. "Show me what you've got." Jake's heart leapt, fueled by a mix of determination and fear. He would need to step outside himself and confront the challenges ahead, not only with Emily, but within himself. This was an invitation to change, not just for the ranch, but for his very being. "Great, let's start with the barn," Jake said, a plan forming in his mind. He felt an odd sense of excitement bubbling within him, an emerging determination to transform their legacy into something greater than what had been lost. But as they moved past the threshold of the barn, Jake realized dread loomed over him like a storm cloud. More than just the physical repairs lay ahead. He had to confront the emotional renovations necessary for their connection to evolve. Would they stand together against the rising tide of unresolved feelings, or would buried conflicts unleash storms that threatened to derail their fresh start? With a resolute heart, Jake took the first step inside the barn, feeling the weight of the promise they were forging together. He knew this moment would either strengthen their bond or unravel it entirely. Jake stepped into the barn, the familiar scent of hay and aged wood enveloping him like an old blanket. Memories flittered around him, laughter between him and Emily as they had spent countless summers working on their dreams. Instinctively, he sought that feeling again, but was met with the echo of his uncertainty. He turned to Emily, who stood just outside the threshold, her silhouette framed by the late afternoon light. "This place needs some love," he began, trying to mask the tremor in his voice with bravado. "We could start by clearing this space. It needs a transformation, just like us." She hesitated, her brow wrinkling with skepticism. "What do you mean, just like us?" Jake's heart raced, sensing that this was a critical moment. "We both have our bruises, Emily. This barn reflects that. But I believe we can rebuild it, expand its purpose, restore its memories while crafting new ones." Their eyes locked, and for the first time, Jake saw something flicker within her, an acknowledgement of their shared history and an inkling of curiosity masked by her fears. "Let's just hope repairs don't go sideways," she said, a half-smile breaking her resolve. "After all, your idea of work has always been more fun in theory." Jake chuckled lightly, the tension beginning to unravel. "True, I guess I'll have to keep you around to keep me in check." They began with small tasks, sweeping debris, tossing out broken tools, and tossing playful insults that soon turned into light banter. Each laugh felt like a building block, slowly reconstructing a bridge he thought was beyond repair. However, beneath that surface layer of camaraderie surged his anxiety about deeper issues. As sunlight streamed through the barn's gaps, illuminating their work and casting long shadows, Jake's mind raced ahead. The barn was a metaphor, but also a literal foundation for their future. He envisioned events filled with laughter, shared responsibilities, and a rekindled bond. Yet, lurking beneath his excitement was the dread that the deeper issues, the misunderstandings, the secrets, the resentment, could burst through at any moment. Working side by side, Emily caught his eye, pausing. "You keep looking like you're miles away. What are you thinking?" Jake inhaled deeply, feeling the constraints of remaining closed off. "Honestly, I'm trying to figure out how to not screw this up." The admission slipped out before he could second-guess it. Confession, vulnerability. Emily's expression softened, as if peeling away her own layers. "Jake, we can't predict what will happen next. We can only take one step at a time. We've been given this chance. Let's not waste it worrying." Her words resonated with an innate understanding that pushed against his fears. There was wisdom in her experience, one born out of living through their shared past. It became clear to Jake that the true renovation had to begin within himself. He had to be ready to confront whatever insecurities bubbled up, to exorcise the demons that had haunted him, the ones that had held him back from fully connecting with Emily. As they continued to work, a quiet determination arose in him. He couldn't shy away from this chance. It was about more than the barn. It was about truly showing up for her, for himself, and dismantling walls he'd built for self-preservation. At dusk, as the day's labor bound them together, he knew he had to invite Emily to join him on this journey of discovery. "Emily, I think we should open up more, about anything, our doubts, dreams, whatever it is. We need to be on the same page if we want to get through this." She looked at him carefully, a moment of silence stretching between them. "What if we discover things we're not ready to face?" she asked, and Jake could almost see the walls she contemplated building again. "Then we face them," he replied, sensing this was the crossroads of their rebirth, together. With that, the evening settled into tranquility. Jake felt a glimpse of hope amidst the uncertainty. They were navigating this unforeseen path side by side. But as he gazed at the barn, dreaming of all it could be, he felt a hollow ache in his chest. What if they weren't strong enough to confront the uncharted territory ahead? Would their fragile connection shatter under the weight of reality? Taking a breath, Jake sought reassurance in his resolve. "Tomorrow, I'll show you what I mean about moving forward," he said, but felt the spine of doubt creeping back. Little did he know that tomorrow would unleash revelations no amount of preparation could foresee. The following morning, the sun rose with a burst of gold, illuminating the barn and drawing Jake out of bed with an urgency that felt foreign yet thrilling. Today, he would confront the uncertainties that had clutched his heart and threatened to derail his newfound purpose. He felt the weight of his intentions as he loaded tools onto a worn wheelbarrow, each one a symbol of his commitment to both the barn and Emily. After a quick breakfast, he drove back to the barn, his mind racing with plans. He envisioned a workshop space, a gallery for local artists, maybe even a small cafe. But none of these ambitions mattered if he couldn't also rebuild the connection with Emily. Jake could hardly explain to himself why each moment spent fixating on the barn felt almost as significant as sharing meaningful conversations with her. They were intertwined. Emily arrived shortly after, eyebrows raised in curiosity upon seeing the organized chaos of tools and materials strewn about. "What's all this?" she asked, crossing her arms skeptically. "Just a few ideas I had," Jake replied, his heart thumping. "I thought we could start brainstorming how to use the barn's potential, but first I think we need to dig deeper into what we really want." "Digging deeper, huh?" Emily leaned against the wall, feigning nonchalance. "You're getting serious." "It's now or never," he declared, his voice steadying. "Instead of just fixing things up, what if we explore what we both truly desire? What's got us stuck, and what do we dream about, together?" With an uncertain grin, she stepped closer. "Okay, but are we talking here like deep diving?" "Absolutely," he said, swallowing hard, knowing the candidness would eventually peel away layers they may not have been ready to face. "I'm ready to work through my fears if you are." They spent the morning attempting to breathe new life into the barn, hammering nails and painting wooden beams, while intermittently sharing thoughts. The grueling labor replaced by sharp revelations felt invigorating. Each time Jake shared a doubt or cherished memory, he saw shadows retreat from Emily's face. She was listening, opening up, and slowly he felt their walls start to crack. "Sometimes I think I'm not fit to handle my own life," she admitted, during a brief work break, wiping her brow. "How can I guide things here when I can't even manage what's inside me?" Jake's heart ached at her vulnerability. He was witnessing her peeling back layers just as he was. "You're not alone. I've struggled too, and I still do. I keep second-guessing myself, wondering if I'm capable of truly fixing anything, including my life." Her eyes sparked for a moment. "But you came back, Jake. That means something."
"It shows you haven't given up. You're moving forward." "I want to keep moving," he replied, the fear peeling away gradually, revealing genuine resolve. "But I need to face more than just the past. I need to create a future where I embrace my failures instead of fleeing from them." A comfortable silence hung in the air as the barn, their sanctuary and reflection of their lives, absorbed their raw honesty. But shadows still lingered, questions unasked, truths unsaid. "Jake," Emily finally ventured, her voice wavering slightly, "what if we dive into those darker spaces? What if our past is more tangled than we realize?" The surface calm shattered tension. She was right. What if the shadows they had avoided still threatened to ensnare their new beginnings? Echoes of anguish lurked beneath the laughter, reminders of unfinished conversations and unresolved emotions. "I think," he began carefully, "that we must confront those fears. If we're going to do this, let's be all in, no turning back." Just as they began to process the enormity of the moment, an echo of laughter rang out from the depths of the barn, startling them both. The moment fractured. They hadn't been alone in this profound conversation. "Did you hear that?" She narrowed her eyes, scanning their surroundings. Jake stiffened, still grappling with the thoughts they had just shared. "Yeah," he replied, a trickle of unease gnawing at him. "What was that?" An urgent curiosity surged in Jake's stomach as they exchanged a glance, knowing full well their new journey was about to take an unexpected turn. What lay ahead could unveil the very truths they desperately sought to uncover, but also plunge them into deeper complexities than they'd ever anticipated. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he scanned the dim corners of the barn. The sound had dissipated, but the weight of silence bore down on him. Emily's expression mirrored his apprehension. Together, they stood at the precipice of something larger than restructuring wood and paint. "Maybe it's just a raccoon or something," he suggested, his voice lacking conviction. yet instinctive dread sent a shiver down his spine. "Or maybe it's someone hiding, watching us," she said quietly, half teasing but more curious than frightened. "What if we stumbled upon something important?" With a shared sense of determination, they ventured deeper into the barn's shadows. Each step seemed to echo their internal fight, the desire to confront fear alongside the instinct to flee from it. Their hands reached for the discarded tools still scattered about, as if the very implements of their labor could shield them from whatever awaited. The laughter returned, this time louder and more vibrant, ricocheting off the walls. Jake squinted into the gloom, trying to discern its source, a gnawing discomfort making him feel exposed. "Let's check it out," Emily urged, taking the initiative. They followed the laughter, and as they turned the corner, a burst of color bloomed before them. There sat a group of children, a spontaneous gathering of giggling youth holding craft supplies, oblivious to Jake and Emily's imposing presence. Their laughter cascaded through the air, drawing in life that had seemed dormant only moments before. "What the?" Jake muttered, incredulous. One girl, small and exuberant with a mane of wild curls, looked up and flashed a smile that somehow felt contagious. "We're painting," she declared, pointing to a makeshift canvas where splatters of color told stories he couldn't quite fathom. Jake's heart lightened, a welcome break from the weight of their heavy conversation about fears and futures. "Wow, those are beautiful," he said, his tone brightening. "Can we help?" Emily asked, stepping forward, the shadows of doubt momentarily retreating. That question opened a floodgate. The children, seeing allies, tugged at their sleeves and beckoned them closer. Hours melted away as Jake and Emily lost themselves in a world painted by innocence and joy. As they smeared paint along wooden boards and laughed at mishaps, Jake found acceptance in the chaos. It was unplanned, yet it felt like the universe aligning. Amid the art, they began to share lighter moments. Humor began to spill into their conversations. Jake realized how much he craved this connection, not just with Emily, but amid the pulsing energy of creativity and life swirling around them. For the first time since stepping back into this life, he recognized a flicker of purpose, a reason to let in laughter as a means to heal. But as the sun dipped low, illuminating the barn in warm hues, the children began packing up, their giggles fading into the quiet of the evening. Jake felt a pang of wistfulness. The interlude had been a balm, yet there was unfinished business still lurking in his heart, troubling layers yet unexamined. "Emily," he started, the pleasant warmth giving way to the familiar chill of uncertainty. "We can't ignore what lies just beneath the surface. We'll have to find a way to continue this, together." She nodded, her expression serious, but softened by the vibrant happiness they had shared today. "What do you think we should explore next? The past still waits for us." The shift back to heavier matters began to loom over them like a balloon gradually deflating. Just as Jake opened his mouth to respond, an unexpected crash resonated from one side of the barn, further deepening his unease. "What now?" Emily whispered, her eyes wide with concern, reflecting a blend of curiosity and trepidation. Jake's pulse quickened. "Let's check it out." They exchanged determined glances and stepped towards the noise, a sense of dread weaving into their resolve. They both knew that the next awkward truth could very well redefine everything they were beginning to understand about themselves and each other. Would they have the strength to confront whatever awaited them in that darkness? The moment hung heavy with infinite possibilities, the weight of uncertainty trailing behind them like an unwelcome shadow. The crash echoed deeper within the barn, an ominous reminder that they were not just facing their past, but perhaps an embodiment of it. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through him, quickening his resolve. He had been avoiding those same shadows for too long.
As they approached the source of the noise, their footsteps cautiously navigated over splintered floorboards and scattered paintbrushes. They reached a dimly lit corner where an old trunk lay overturned, its contents spilled like memories long forgotten. Jake's heart thudded against his ribs as he surveyed the contents, a mixture of aged photographs, weathered toys, and shattered remnants of an uncertain history. "Are these?" Emily murmured, crouching down to sift through the belongings with delicate fingers. The air grew heavy with a sense of nostalgia, but Jake couldn't help but feel suffocated by the memories that threatened to resurface. "Some of this has been here since I was a kid," he admitted, squinting through the dust. Bits and pieces of his childhood emerged before him, more potent than any vivid dream he could remember. Each item sparked thoughts and feelings he'd buried for years. "What if we look through these?" Emily's voice was soft, encouraging him to confront rather than retreat. She picked up a small rusted toy truck that seemed to belong to him, the sharp pang in his chest a reminder of what he'd lost, a connection not just to family, but to the uncomplicated joy of being a child. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Jake confessed, glancing at her worried expression. But her gentle nod ignited something inside him. Perhaps this was the moment when his past could be reshaped into something more bearable. "Maybe uncovering these will help us move forward, Jake. We can redefine what these memories mean," she suggested. The earnestness in her voice made him stop and think. It was an invitation to confront what he had previously feared. Hesitantly, he took a leap of faith, choosing to engage with the photographs. Each one peeled back layers of his psyche, revealing laughter and sorrow intertwined in his upbringing, hints of family gatherings, moments of triumph, and myriad reminders of loss. "Look at this," Emily said suddenly, holding up a photo of a younger Jake, arms wrapped around a little girl with wild curls reminiscent of the one they had just met. His breath caught in his throat. "That was my sister, Lucy." A rush of emotion washed over him. They had been inseparable in their childhood, a bond that had somehow frayed over the years when tragedy struck. Her face radiated joy, and for a moment Jake was transported back to a time where laughter overshadowed grief.
"Tell me about her," Emily prompted gently, her voice laced with curiosity and compassion. Jake hesitated, the words tangled in his throat. She had this way of finding joy in everything. She'd paint with wild abandon, just like those kids we met earlier. It always felt like she was living life to the fullest, no matter what happened. The admission stirred something in him, a flicker of resilience igniting in his chest. All at once, he understood what living fully meant, a promise he had put aside for too long. But like a brave child rummaging through a treasure chest, he was starting to realize that confronting his past was the key to opening a brighter future. As they sorted through memorabilia, Jake felt something unraveling deep within him, an opportunity to reclaim lost connections, not solely with his past, but with the person he was becoming. "Maybe we can honor those memories," he said, a new determination coloring his tone. "Instead of hiding from them, we could celebrate them." The intensity in Emily's eyes sparked something electric between them, more than just a partnership, but a connection rooted in shared hopes of nurturing creativity and healing. But just as clarity began to fill the space between them, another crash sounded from the far side of the barn, this time sharper, more insistent. It was as if a wall was demanding to be broken down. The unexpected noise set the stage for the next revelation, and both exchanged a charged glance. The tension thickened once again. "Jake, do you think we're ready for whatever that is?" Emily's voice held both fear and eager anticipation. "I suppose we'll find out," he replied, his pulse racing in sync with the rising stakes of their newfound potential. As they turned to confront whatever lay ahead, a determination bubbled within him, one that may very well transform their understanding of the intricate weave of their own destinies. The barn felt alive with that second crash, an echo reverberating through the wood as if the very structure armored itself against whatever uncertainty lay beyond. Jake inhaled sharply, a flurry of emotions roiling within him: fear, curiosity, determination. As he exchanged a glance with Emily, he found that the moment had crystallized. They were standing on the precipice of discovery. "Let's go," he said, mustering courage. He moved forward, each step a small confrontation of the walls he had built over the years, a mental rebuff of what he had hidden away under layers of avoidance. As they passed the chaotic remnants of his past, he noticed how his heart raced, not merely from apprehension, but from a burgeoning sense of agency. With every step toward the noise, he found himself leaning into the discomfort rather than shy away. Perhaps this is how one steps into their own power, by confronting the chaos rather than running from it. The dim light cast shadows on their path, distorting familiar surroundings into a haunting landscape.
The fear clawing at Jake's chest morphed into an urgency. He realized he had long wished for this confrontation, a face-off with his unresolved memories. Just moments ago, he found himself repositioning the narrative of his past. Now, he was about to enact it. Another noise, louder now, sent ripples of adrenaline through his veins. They rounded the corner and spotted a tangle of wood and debris. His mind fired with possibilities. Someone was trapped, or perhaps something was trying to break free. Regardless, the nature of confrontation was not lost upon him. He had spent too many years backing away. "Jake!" Emily's voice pierced through his ruminations. She held up a hand, her eyes wide, questioning his intentions. "Are you sure we should just charge in?" The instinct to protect reawakened, reminding him of easy moments with Lucy. The instinct to defend rather than presume danger. "We have to find out what it is," he urged, allowing the determination to guide him. Driven by that ripple of conviction, he pushed aside a wooden board that lay askew on the ground. What emerged from the shadows took him by surprise. A falling shelf, and atop it, shattered remnants of an old toy chest. "Just a shelf," Jake murmured, letting out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Shifting through the wreckage, he found another piece of his childhood. An old hand-painted box, dusty but intact. It reminded him of the way Lucy used to create things from nothing, giving life to objects drenched in her imaginative spirit. "Look, there's something in here," Emily exclaimed, brushing aside the dust to expose an intricate wooden sculpture tucked amidst the debris. Jake's fingers traced the lines of the craftsmanship. "This was my dad's," he said, lost somewhere in the textures of memory. A flickering image of his father teaching him the delicate touch required in woodwork, transforming raw materials into art. "This is incredible, Jake. This is part of your history, too." Her hopeful tones struck a chord deep within him. In that moment, he felt the transformative power of reconnection, not only with his materials, but with what they represented, a legacy of creativity and love. The weight of his past didn't feel like a burden anymore. It was an invitation to forge something new, to honor those dynamic memories instead of drowning in them. "Maybe I can do this again," Jake stated, more to himself than anyone else. A revelation linking him to the past, yet guiding his future. He could expand on the legacy of joy Lucy had left behind, allowing those discarded artifacts a voice once more. "Let's restore it," Emily suggested, her eyes reflecting the spark of shared inspiration. His heart surged at the thought of transformation. It wasn't just about the object. It became a platform for channeling his past into a creative endeavor, a literal craft of healing.
But just as they began to strategize on how to piece everything back together, another sound rang out. A sharp crack echoed in the barn. Their eyes widened, the air thick with uncertainty. What more had they left to unearth in this web of interconnected pasts? "Let's find out what else is hidden here," he said, his determination solidifying. The narrative of his life was not merely to be reclaimed, but rewritten. With each moment, they teetered on the edge of revelation, both scared and exhilarated. "What if it's something we're not ready for?" Emily questioned, a shadow of doubt casting over her features. "Whatever it is, we can handle it together." With that, Jake's resolve solidified, each heartbeat echoing the promise of reclamation. The foundation of their journey, a path not just toward rediscovery, but toward a renewed purpose, beckoned to them. Together, they turned their focus toward the unknown as the barn held its breath. Whatever lay ahead would demand everything they'd just begun to uncover. Were they prepared for what they might find? As they stepped further into the unknown, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real unearthing had just begun. The barn's shadow deepened as Jake and Emily sifted through the remnants of his childhood. Each discovery felt like an unearthing of lost pieces of himself. His struggles, his triumphs, and the childlike wonder that had become all but forgotten in adulthood. The air crackled with the energy of their shared exploration, but an ominous undercurrent lingered. What would this journey reveal about them? With a flicker of courage, Jake pushed open the tilted door of the barn's back room. As they crossed the threshold, a flood of sunlight poured in, illuminating the dusty remnants of his past. A forgotten workshop lay abandoned, filled with half-finished projects that had once held promise. The sight of the tools sparked a blend of nostalgia and clarity as recognition washed over him. "This is where it all started," he murmured, running his fingers over a pair of saws, still sharp, yet untended. Emily moved beside him, energy radiating from her as they stepped deeper into the space. "You could still create something beautiful here," she said, her voice helping to dissolve the chill of lingering regret. Jake turned to face her, shadows of doubt lifting. "It's time I claim this space for what it can be, for who I want to be." By acknowledging his history, he unveiled the unspent potential intertwined with it. This isn't just about pain, it's about honoring it and allowing new possibilities to grow. Her expression softened, emboldening him further. "Together, we can rebuild more than just a barn. We can reshape ourselves." The conviction in her words felt like a warm embrace, igniting an undeniable impulse inside him. As they began to organize the workshop, memories threaded themselves into their tasks. Together, they cleaned, painted, and transformed the workspace. Though the task was obligatory, the act became symbolic, a manifestation of their burgeoning connection. Each pass of the brush felt cathartic, as if Jake was painting over the hurt of self-doubt with a palette of courage and hope. "I can't believe how far we've come in just a few days," Emily remarked, catching him off guard. The sincerity of her words clung in the air, inviting vulnerability. Jake hesitated, his heart racing. "It feels incredible, but I still wonder if I'm enough. If the past can be reconciled with this new beginning?" "But you're proving that you are," she replied earnestly. "Coming back here, confronting your fears, it takes true strength. You've grown into a man willing to face what's unresolved." He inhaled sharply, her validation sparking something essential inside. Suddenly, the shadows of doubt began to dissipate. It was now clear. Jake Caldwell was not merely a lonely cowboy. He was a man reclaiming his life. Their laughter filled the air, small bursts of nervous energy rising as they transformed interfaces of the barn. Each project became a declaration, an outcry against despair. "What if we turned this place into an art studio as well, a hub for the community?" he proposed,
feeling exhilarated by the prospect. Absolutely! We could host art nights, workshops, even invite local artists to teach. Emily echoed his enthusiasm, their aspirations intertwining yet again. As they envisioned what lay ahead, Jake felt the once taut threads of isolation unwinding. In that moment, he realized she was not just a reminder of his worn past, but a partner with whom he could construct a living future. The promise from so long ago now transformed into something palpable, a bond he wished to cultivate, not as it once had been, but in a manner resonating with growth and potential. But amid this burgeoning hope, a lingering caution tugged at him like an old habit, familiar and demanding. "What if this all crumbles down again?" he asked, vulnerability tipping into introspection, reminding him how tenuous life could feel. "What if I fail at this once more?" Emily stepped closer, their pasts merging in the spaces between them. "Together, we'll face whatever comes. We're stronger now. We understand the importance of support and honesty." Her words, soothing yet powerful, surged a wave of warmth through him, erasing the final vestiges of doubt. It shifted the terrain beneath them toward the promise of continuity. Jake smiled, genuine and bright, as the vibrant light filtered through the barn's cracks, illuminating a bright path marred by shadows they would face together. Declaring their dreams became less of a challenge and more of a shared journey. "Let's make this a space for hope, creativity, and healing," Jake declared, purpose flooding his voice. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, Jake felt a profound sense of clarity. All the doubt he had wrestled with receded as he embraced Emily by the arm. They stood together, not merely as ghosts of their past, but as sculptors of a new future. Ultimately, Jake conquered his demons with every brushstroke they shared, the barn's walls ringing with laughter and transformation, resonating a truth he'd long sought to reclaim. It was never too late to rediscover oneself. The barn, adorned anew with dreams and possibilities, became an emblem of triumph, a testament to the power of resilience and the courage to face the uncertainties that lay ahead. Their interconnected destinies would shape one another in unexpected and beautiful ways, as faith in themselves blossomed within the dusty sanctuary of his childhood. Euphoria mixed with apprehension at the cusp of this transformation. In acknowledging their first steps on unsuspecting ground, Jake took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever the horizon brought next, knowing full well that they could weather the storm together. And the greatest truth of all, they had taken the first step, not just in rebuilding a barn, but in reconstructing their lives, one brushstroke, one promise at a time. Now, more than ever, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. What did you think of Jake and Emily's journey? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to do so. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of joining us on this journey.